How's everybody doing? Happy Sunday. You said Amazon DynamoDB. I think I put Lambda in the description. My bad, my bad. It's been a long week for me. So just want to welcome everybody in the house. Shout out to OG. She's early. Well, she's on time. I'm late. So once again, I just want to welcome everybody. So about to get started. You know how we do it. If you got any cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the box. Just go pick up my phone, make sure we're rolling. Oh man, I'm struggling already. It ain't even Monday yet, man. I gotta get it together. I gotta get it together. So I'm glad y'all could join me. What I usually do is just go over the YouTube videos I did for the week while people file in. So that's what we'll do. Of course, we're talking about Amazon DynamoDB. I had to change the description. Just doing too much some days, just doing too much. So once again, hey, the got out the mud chicken. Welcome, Adrian. Glad you could join me. I know you're doing big things over there. So let's just go through the videos I did this week. Once again, giving people time to follow in. If you want to check them out, just go back into my videos and you can listen to it if some piques your interest. I did this one. The Europe pipelines were cyber attacked because I think the United States is next. I think they're practicing on Europe. So I always tell people if you got gas this winter, you better get you some wood because I think they're gonna take us out for a couple of weeks. We've been going to China, we've been poking Russia, so I think I think we will be without gas and natural gas a little bit this weekend. So that's PBO's prediction. But once again, the Europe pipeline was cyber attacked. It shows you some pipelines going through Europe, and their gas is getting outrageous because Russia's starting to cut them off a little bit. So once again, just check that video. We're talking about nation states, national interest right now. Instead of that. Hacker scan securities vulnerabilities within 15 minutes. A lot of times when you see these articles that come out and says could say it's pipelines been hacked or there's a bug in, which we're going to get to. There was a Linux malware brute force attack. There was bugs in some of the software. Usually those bugs have been known for 3 months, and they just told the companies to give those companies time enough to patch and get those fixed, right? Because if you find a bug and release it, the bad guys will start attacking those bugs. So they, if you're familiar with Windows Patch Tuesday, they come out Patch Tuesday, right? Fix them. Those bugs been out for 3 or 4 months, right? And they've been fixing them, giving the vendors time to fix them. So when the bad guys see those bugs, they just automatically start hacking them ASAP, right? So, but I guess I was surprised within 15 minutes. I guess they see the CVEs, read through them, come up with their type of attack, right? Then start going at it within 15 minutes. This one was out and about. Interesting is, and once again, you could check out the video. A robot was playing chess. The kid was moving, and I guess the robot, without a sync, grabbed the kid's hand. It was in Russian and broke his finger. Right? I was talking about the Terminator was out there. No, I'm just playing, right? So no, it was just a mishap. But once again, the robot did break the kid's finger. So a number of the comments I thought was interesting. Why does a robot playing chess need enough strength to break somebody's finger, right? You just moving a chess piece, right? I was joking. I said at night he was working in Ford Motor Company, right? The robot had a second job, but go check that out. Once again, just a bad mishap. So hopefully they get that figured out. This one was super interesting for me is the scammers were scamming the old lady and she needed to go to bank. So the scammers ordered the old lady an Uber for the Uber to take the bank to send the bad guys the money, right? The old lady figured it out. The elderly lady figured it out. But I thought that was a bit, I was like, okay. I think it was Blind Guy, his wife. The scammers are doing too much, right? So the scammers will order you an Uber to steal your money, right? So I thought that was a big much. Shout out to engineering cannabis. Reinforced learning what data did. Reinforcement learning what data did they train the robot with. Yeah, I agree with you, right? I was joking. I said the robot had a second job engineering cannabis, so he was doing chess and he was working at Ford Motor Company at night, I guess. So, but now you correct. How was they training that robot? Salute to brother Michael. I need a robot bodyguard. What's up? Shout out to Adrian. So, but yeah, the last one that was super hot. Shout out to Keep It Techie for sharing it for me. Linux malware was brute force. Everybody uses SSH servers to log into a VPC or log in their company, and off of that SSH, they move within their company. And there was a brute force attack on a lot of those SSH servers. So, but to be honest, like somebody commented, that is quite common. Take over the servers, add them to the botnet herd, and to the use that to jump off and hack internal to the company and to other companies. So those are some of the videos I did. I think those were over the last 2 weeks because I didn't go live last week. I was just tired. But once again, if you want to go check out one of those videos, or if you have any questions on those videos, you can drop them in the box. Like Engineering Cannabis said on the robot one, what were they using to train it, and you think you would test it if somebody reached out and the robot reached out, the robot would go, oh, let me back off. They're trying to move, or at least pause. It's like, hey, I'm gonna continue to move, and what gets in the way, I'm just gonna get in the way. So, like Engineering Cannabis said, I think they missed a little training, couple steps on that robot that broke those fingers. So the little boy was okay. He actually played in the next day in the tournament. So shout out to Russia. They want to make sure their robots are looking bad. So they kept it pushing. So we're gonna talk about Amazon DynamoDB. It's a NoSQL database. One of the salute casual economists. NoSQL database. We're just gonna go in through. Just check it out. It's one of the most popular databases inside AWS. NoSQL is one of the current trends. It's not new anymore. I consider it because since I've been doing, RDS for 25 years. So NoSQL is kind of new to me, or one of the newer databases. So we're just going to go through and just talk about it and chop it up about it. Once again, if you had any questions on any of those videos, you can drop them in the box and we can chat about them, right? Anything with cybersecurity. So let's check out. I always, and this is in my DevSecOps series. Databases are used throughout. Anytime you save anything, usually it's in a database. Anytime you requery stuff, or you're in Amazon and you picking stuff up out to put in the shopping cart, a lot of that stuff is saved in a database, right? I think the database is a lost art. People really don't concern themselves with databases that much. I made my first money on an Oracle database, so that's kind of one of my first things I always check is the database. So once again, we're going to get at it and go through it. We're going to do a quick lab and see how that goes. I usually don't lab on lab, but we're going to do a lab. I need to lab more. So we're just going to create a database, a DynamoDb table, which is in their database. Build it, look at it from an architectural standpoint, talk about what's the differences between an RDS and a NoSQL at a high level. So once again, let's get at it. So I thought this was interesting. I didn't order anything in Amazon Prime Day 2020. AWS for the win. And I'm actually go over all the technologies was in there, but Amazon DynamoDB was used heavily within their architecture. So on Amazon Prime Day 2020, Amazon DynamoDB powers multiple high traffic Amazon properties, systems, including Alexa and the Amazon.com sites. And all the Amazon fulfillment centers over the course of Prime Day, these sources made trillions of calls to the DynamoDB API. Why trillions of calls? DynamoDB maintained a high availability while delivering single digits millisecond response time, peaking at 105.2 million requests per second, right? In Amazon Prime Day, everybody's ordering, everybody's querying, everybody's ordering packages. Third parties are sending requests. We're sending requests. They're sending shipments to FedEx and UPS to come pick it. So they said it peaked at 105.2 million transactions per second. That's a crazy number right there. That is a huge number. So once again, they're eating their own dog food. Oracle, how the term is, Amazon's using their infrastructure for their business to show you can scale at the level you needed to scale at, right? So yep, shout out to that. SQL and NoSQL, I would use them to arrange and query my data. We're going to go over a few examples of that. Of course, engineering cannabis is right on point. And that's what I'm trying to do. You will use NoSQL for a certain thing, and you would use RDS for a certain thing. I usually just use RDS as my hammer and just make it work for everything. But uh, NoSQL is used for certain things, and RDS is used for certain things, right? So you want to use the right tool for the right job. So um, even in my old age, I'm trying to get my tool set right. So once again, I can have the right tool for the right job. So NoSQL is a class of database management systems that are non-relational and do not use SQL, but have dynamic schemas for unstructured data that have different types based on their data type. And these are some of the NoSQL data types: document, key value, wide column, and graph. NoSQL is best database class for large amounts of data or data sets that are changed frequently. If you're working with large amounts of unstructured data, document databases are a great option. Right. So shout out to engineering cannabis and to my man. I should have got before the billions over here. You know, he's a data engineer. So these are kind of things because you're consuming a mass amount of data, rolling it up. And a lot of times giving it to people like engineering cannabis, getting it ready so he can put it in what he needed for machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? He wants you to build the pipeline so all the data flows to him so then he can do what he needs to do with the data, right? But you got to extract it, form it, put it in easier format where the AI, machine learning, data architects, data engineers, and scientists can get to the data and do whatever mathematics or calculus or whatever they're trying to figure out. They want the data into a usable format, right? To make it easier for them to run their analysis on that data, right? To figure out everything from financials to drugs to, a lot of different things, So the advantages over non-relational: easy scalability, high availability, flexibility of data models, and high performance. Once again, we saw that 152 million whatever per second. That's a crazy that's a crazy number per second, right? But those are the things when you're dealing with Amazon and that scale. When you're dealing with a worldwide company, that's how much data they're dealing with, right? So this is just strictly from their website, Amazon DB, fast and flexible. You can go to the NoSQL Workbench. We're going to talk about global tables, encryption at rest, point in time recovery, on demand capacity mode, and party QL support, meaning you can actually run SQL queries on a NoSQL database, right? Which makes it, easy to use. And out of that, you can export it to data streams. You can integrate it with other AWS services by exporting table data to perform analytics and extract insights and monitor trends and logs to enhance. And Amazon DB automatically, have connectors and JDBCs and stuff to Amazon S3, AWS Glue. Kinesis is just for streaming large streams of data. We always use that when we talk about satellites. That's the stuff you use to stream for. And once again, for monitoring, you can use Cloud Trails and CloudWatch, right? Coming straight for when you load it up or you're making changes or you're rolling up, right? So those are some of the AWS services that easily connects to DynamoDB. In the future, we're going to show those labs, and I keep saying I'm gonna do something with B2B on flowing data from raw and then rolling it up and getting ready for scientists to use it. Disadvantages of it: some databases are not uh, compatible with atomicity of instructions, and integrity of the data, and lack of standardization. Right, so um, slight things, Once again, you want to use the right tool for the right job. ETL process, extract, form, and load the method. That is true. And that's, when you use DynamoDB, a lot of times you use that as the front. Then in the back, you're going to, like you said, extract, transform, and load, figure out where you want to put it at. I did data warehousing for probably 10 years, but this is the evolution of data warehousing, right? Data warehousing to data lakes to ODS to more non-structured, right? I think that's the new form. Data warehouses were rigid. It took a little while to get them set up. It took a while to get the data in there, and it was really expensive back then. Those databases were super expensive back then, right? So once again, the evolution of it. DynamoDB is the option that AWS offers for NoSQL. As we learned, there are multiple types of non-relational databases. Document key value, like RDS, DynamoDB is a fully managed NoSQL database service that provides fast and predictable performance with easy scalability. Right. Once again, that's why you get an Amazon. You don't have to worry about that infrastructure. They're gonna take care of that for you. Right. And that's why they make $4 billion a year in AWS, not moving books, but in computer software. All right. Then once again, some of the other things you get with that: on-demand capacity, built-in ACID transaction, on-demand backups, point-in-time recovery, and encryption at rest. Right. So a lot of times you want to encrypt data in case somebody's trying to steal data from you. Right. So those are a lot of the security features that are built into uh, Amazon DB. So once again, the NoSQL part of that, and it's becoming, not becoming. If you Google, there was a ton of jobs out there from a full stack that a lot of people were trying to get the hang of that on the back end, right? So we know it's here. It's one of their flagships. It's something they're pushing too. So um, let's see. Let's see. Yep, everybody's good. So Dynamo performance at scale. It's a key value where document database can support. Enables scale up to more than 10 trillion requests per second with peak greater than 20 million per second over a petabyte of storage. Dynamo global tables replicate data automatically across your choice of AWS services and automatically scale capacity to accommodate your workloads. With global tables, you can globally distribute application, can access data locally in selected regions to get single digit millisecond read and write performance. So a lot of times when you set up your company, you set it up in a certain region, right? If you're a medium or small company, if you're a global company, you can have an east and west region, right? And you can have DynamoDB use global tables, so your customers on one coast can work in that region they're closest to, right? Of course, that's going to cost you more money, right? Because you got more resources. But if you're a nation company too, if you're a global company, I think Amazon's got a data center in Africa, Brazil. So they got data centers around the world. So you could get a data center closest to your customer, right? So you could get that millisecond response time if you need it, right? Of course, that comes with a cost. Amazon Kinesis data streams capture item level changes in your DynamoDB tables at Kinesis data stream. This feature enables you to build advanced streams application using real-time log aggregation, real-time business analytics, and IoT data capture. So, and that's one of the things we've been talking about doing an incubator is if you got financial data and you streaming it, right? Because stock prices change by the millisecond and the second. If you were trying to map that out from a statistical analysis per second, right? You would need something like that to capture that much data, right? Because it's going to be a ton if you're trying to capture it, every 10 or 15 seconds, right? To catch a pattern, right? A lot of people they trade stocks on the mood of the stock market, not on the fundamentals of company. If a lot of people selling, they might sell before or shorter. If they see, tons of trades to come in, they'll buy them before people, right? And a lot of stock companies front trade people by doing stuff like that. They can see all the trades that come in their system. They can make trades in front of those trades. I think that should be illegal, but a lot of companies do that, right? Because they're actually covering trades when you buy stuff with their internal stock that they own, right? So a lot of times I think they front trade. Right? So they know what you want to buy it, right? So they buy it a penny cheaper and sell it a nickel more, right? That 4% difference doesn't sound like till you put it over a billion trades, right? So that's when it starts, adding up. So that's when you get that millisecond trade. The feature of DynamoDB, we talked about this: high availability, scalability, once again, global tables, backup, encryptions, and monitoring. Right, you can monitor stuff and watch it. Right, so once again, this is AWS. I think that's the future. I've been getting a ton of certs. Right, so just me putting what I learned and kind of just sharing it with the community, right? And we're gonna actually start building stuff. So, right, so this is the first day. I think I'm a lab online. We're gonna see how this gonna go. I'm a lab on I'm a lab on a live and see how this goes. So once again, so you got RFID chips, right? These could be manufacturers. This could be actually a buddy of mine works for Subaru. This could be actually the chips on the Subaru tracking the cars as it goes through, right? You can have all that data just coming into your US East region, going out in streams. And Subaru is actually, an Asian company. So that information can be going to your Asia corporate office so they can keep track of metrics, how many cars, how many things are going wrong, right? So, but two is you got to remember that's thousands of cars getting built, right? Because there's multiple states, there's multiple places in the globe that they build cars. It's just not in the United States. So they all could be going into DynamoDB, and that streams could be, once again, going back to the corporate office, rolling up. If there's any anomalies, like something's not getting built right or some paint's got some bubble in it, right? You can send out a notifications to the managers that this car has been stuck too long on the line. What's going on? Then the tech search is, what the back office is doing, what the scientist is doing, and just looking for anomalies in their supply chain, right? So that's what you can do with DynamoDB, and hopefully, not hopefully, we're going to do that in the future and just start building stuff out, like this, and actually stepping up. So today, what we're going to do in lab, we're just going to build one table, put a partition ID and a sort ID on it. We're going to add a field to it to watch some orders and just kind of walk through what we just talked about and actually look at those actually on the GUI to see where those actually on the screen, right? So quantum computers used to catch financial facts, right? So this will feel like Engineering Cannabis says, this information could be coming in with the financials to get that rolled up, to build it, to get ready to run those numerical models, like Engineering Cannabis says. But you got to get the data set up to run those numerical models, from quantum physics and just regular statistics, and all that, right? But you got to get the data set up and ready to do that, right? And when you're talking about trillions of transactions in a day, how do you get that ready, set up so people like Engineering Cannabis could do their job, right? So in the end, that's what it's about. Talk that shout out to educators. So, but two is that's what when you talk about AWS and you talk about engineering and building this architecture and setting it up and scaling, right? We went from a small company now, engineering company. We talking about big financial companies. We talking about New York Stock Exchange. We talking about trillions in transactions, and you get paid for that when you master that, right? Especially from a engineering, cloud engineering standpoint, because most of those guys are getting rid of their data centers and they're taking a lot of stuff to the cloud, right? Like Engineering Cannabis says, they're not worried about the data infrastructure. They're worried about their proprietary algorithms. That's really where the money's at, right? They don't want to worry about computers infrastructure. They want to worry about their proprietary algorithms that's making all the money. That's what you want to protect, right? They don't want to. They're not really worried about the computers. They're worried about the algorithms that the computer does, right? So this is my poor blurry machine. This is Dax is just talking about caching. So this is your database. Caching is where you put data at in pure memory. So when you need it again, you can get it ASAP, right? So that's how you get those trillion a second, right? You're not reading it from the database disk, right? Because you got to have a disk read, suck it up in the memory, then pull it out. A lot of data is already in pure memory. That's the DynamoDB cache, and it's already in there, right? And it's huge. So if it's in there, you just pulling it out straight pure memory, right? So you're cutting down hops, and you don't have to go to the database it's all close to your VPC. You can cluster it and get it super on top of each other, right? So you can actually get it back. Shout out to Savage Scientist. Go check him out. From a, he's programming, so I'm trying to get the infrastructure ready for my man like that to program, right? So once again, this is the cache memory. You don't want to read it from the database. So if it's something you pulling all the time, you're gonna write that in cache, so you won't have to go back to get it from the database. And once again, that's how you get those trillions of records per second, right? They're straight in pure memory that you're not pulling them out of cache, right? That's called DAX. DynamoDb Accelerator is a fully managed highly available in memory for Amazon DB to deliver 10 times performance improvement from milliseconds to microseconds, even a millions of requests per second. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? For Amazon data, we're pulling out those records at I think it was 150 million a second. That's how they're doing it. They're doing DAX, right? You're going from millionth of a second to a microsecond. Right? DAX does all the heavy lifting required to add in-memory acceleration to your DynamoDB tables without requiring developers to manage cache invalidation, data population, or cluster management. Shout out to my man Savage. He just want to use it. He don't want to worry about all the infrastructure, man. He want me to do that. So if I set all that stuff up right, when he goes queries that record, it's going to write it in the cache. So the next time he needs it, it'll pull it from cache called a cache hit, and he won't have to go to database. Instead of a millionth of a second, he'll be getting a thousandth of a second time, right? Microsecond. Now you can focus on building great applications for your customers without worrying about performance at scale. You do not need to modify your application logic because DAX is compatible with existing Dynamo API calls. Extreme performance through DynamoDB offers consistent digit millisecond latency. DynamoDB DAX takes performance to the next level with the response. Performance, once again, microseconds for millions of requests per second for read heavy loads. DAX your application remains fast and responses, even when a popular event or news story drives unprecedented request volumes your way. Once again, it's just pure memory cache. It's built into DynamoDB, so it handles all that infrastructure for you, right? You don't have to do a lot of setup. And once again, you go from milliseconds to microseconds, right? So, and like you said, if when you're doing something like Amazon Prime Day, you need something like that. If you just PBO with his little 60 hits, you don't need to spend extra money, right? But these are things we want to understand and learn about. So as we move up and we do bigger things, right, we understand what that does to the database, right, right. Once again, you do not have to compromise performance and scale. DAX lets you scale on demand. You can start with 3 nodes DAX and then add capacity to additional nodes. DAX lets you scale out to 10 node clusters, giving you millions of requests per second, fully managed. You no longer need to worry about it. So, what's new with DB? You can do AWS Glue Elastic View, support DynamoDB as a source. You can replicate your data continuously. We're going to look at this part SQL, a SQL compatible query language to query, insert, and update, deletes straight in to your DynamoDB. Because you talk about NoSQL because they wasn't using SQL, but SQL's so popular they put SQL into NoSQL. So we'll look at it. I thought it was pretty cool. Once again, we're gonna hit a quick live and check it on out. So let's see. Once again, and we looked up that you can hook your DynamoDB to Kinesis data stream. You can restore your DynamoDB tapes faster. You can calculate your price using the DynamoDB calculator. And also you can export data strictly from DynamoDB to S3, which is just a file system and a bucket. Sometimes you want to put it in a database, just slice and dice the parts you need, put it in an S3 bucket. You could turn it over to somebody like Engineering Cannabis, and he could use that for his data lake to actually start doing investigation on data to see really if that's the data he would really like for you to pull more data out. So that's a quick way to get data to data scientists to see if that's the data they really want. Right? Sometimes they got to see the data to run some queries to figure out if that's the data they even want to start doing their trials and their calculations on. The price of it, and we're just gonna hit up. You get charged by read capacities or RCU. Each API call reads data from a table is a read request. You can have a strong consistency, eventual consistency, or transactional, right? So those are three different types of ways, and we're going to get into more advanced things, but that's how you get charged when you're reading from a DynamoDB table. And the other part of that is write. You can do a standard write or a transactional write. Transactional is usually when you group together requests and send them together. In case one fails, you can roll it back. The standard one is accounting. You got accounts payable and accounts receivable. If one of them fails, you want the other one to roll back, right? You don't want to put part of it in and you were supposed to withdraw money, right? You want that to go together as a transaction. If then that fails, you want that to roll back, right? So, and once again, we'll get into that. Those are just advanced topics, right? Read capacity unit and read write capacity. And as a engineer, I need to be able to calculate and tell you theoretically how much that's going to cost you if you got a billion records, right? If it's going to be too much money, you need to be able to run, like they say, run that to a calculator. And I should be able to give engineering cannabis, if how much that would cost me if he wanted to run a billion rows of financial information and do some kind of logarithm on it, right? What would that cost him per a company or a department, right? So that's what those two are about. So when you look at the structure of DynamoDB, it's usually a table. You have a partition key and a sort key and a global secondary index. So at the top is a partition ID. That's what you use when you trying to uniquely identify a record. Then we'll get in there. Your partition key is used hash, and that tells you where it's going to put it at and what partition. And we're going to show partitions too. And two is if that's not a unique identifier, you can add a sort key, and those two together makes each record a unique record. You need a unique record because if I want to pull out the certain USA record, I need to be able to put something in there to go exactly to that record, right? So the partition key with the sort key. And the global secondary key is if I want to do something on USA and search to bring it out. The attribute two is just another field of information. Cool thing is they put JSON in there, so you actually have a bunch of records. And so this could be you ordering a meal, and inside that JSON you got fries, burger, and a drink, right? So all that's in the details. So if I say ID account one in that date, it'll pull out what you ordered, right? That's kind of what we're gonna build in the table in the lab. Something super easy. So um, see what my man. I've been following all your coding videos there. Yeah, shout out to Savage Scientists. I've been in the clouds on a lot of that. It's videos. That's unique. We need more of that. I think he's the only one. So shout out to him. I'm hoping to start doing some Java. But yeah, everybody go check out my man. I've been sending a lot of people to check out Savage Scientists because I don't think a lot of people program like that. Online, especially in the manosphere. There's nobody doing that. So shout out to him. So that's like I said, that's cool. So and I keep saying me and him going to collab on CISP. I know we've been keep throwing that around. So that's kind of something on my bucket list. Probably later on this year, I'll reach out to him to see if he wants to do something on that. Shout out to him. Go subscribe to him. Like I said, I always send a lot of people to go check him out because my first love is programming. I just make a little more money doing cybersecurity, but I like to build stuff. So that's one reason I went to working on Amazon Engineer. So we were talking about that partition ID, right? So when that comes in, long story short, it's going to get hashed. That unique hash number is going to tell it which partition to send it to, right? And which item it gets sent to it, right? So those partition keys, right? It's going to get sent through here. Then it's going to tell you which partition. And those could be the same box, different region, right? But it needs to know where to go to and gets this data to. And that's how it can actually, speed up because even though there's a trillion rows, each one of those partitions probably only have maybe 10 million rows or a million. So you can actually scan through those million rows quicker, right? So when you partition it, right, you get that speed of that, right? So that's showing the hashing and going to that partition. And it's gonna add more. You can add more, split more partition. Once again, once it goes to that function, it knows which partition has that information on it. right? So that's the, I don't say cool part, but that's the part and kind of the speed of it and how it works from a programming engineering standpoint, right? So you can access using SDK or ORM, which is object relational mapping. Just good to know. Different ways to get to it. Engineering Cannabis and Savage, they got their favorite language. So most of those SDK, it could be PHP. I know my man Savage, I think, was doing C Sharp. I'm a Java guy, so they got different SDKs. And there's those SDKs. A lot of them have ORM specific languages. So whatever flavor you have, 9 times out of 10, they have something that flavor or something super close to that flavor. Uh, so at the top is me, more traditional RDS, relational database systems, where you have two tables, uh, primary key, you got a foreign key. That's how you would join your tables and bring your data. To get that speed, though, every time you join, it takes a minute. Every time you look up on a foreign key, DynamoDB is they kind of flatten that out into one table. That's how you get a lot of that speed, right? So I got my customer ID, my order ID. So I got those two tables flattened out or denormalized. If you if you're a nerd like me and you've been computer science, you can denormalize that table and turn those two tables into one, right? The customer order ID, you flatten it out, and so instead of joining those two tables, taking time, I can just go through this at lightning speed using a DAC inside memory, right? And that's how I get millionths of speed, right? So that's kind of it. That's kind of what we're gonna build in this lab, just that table at the bottom. So what that's gonna look like. So let's do that. Make that a little bigger. So if you've never seen an AWS console, it's not much to it. I mean, you engineer a lot of times too is you would do this programmatically in the back using Cloud Formation or some other tools, but we're gonna do it through a GUI. I think you need to learn how to do it through the GUI before you actually automate it, right? So we're gonna do our DynamoDB table at the top. It's logged in. I'm in my Ohio region. Got my tester, and after we get done, we're gonna drop all of this. So just something super simple. We'll create our table. Make that a little bigger for the old people. That's pretty big though. We'll make it a little bigger. I think get that 175. So we'll get the PBO. Get the PBO. Uh, customer customer orders. That's the name of the table that was in there. Then we had the customer ID was the partition key. We're gonna get the customer ID on there. We're gonna make it a number. And the short key right at the top, and we'll go back to that slide in a minute, was order ID. We'll make that a number. All right. So those two together made us a unique record. So let's see if I got any questions. That makes that a unique number. So we're gonna go with the file, but let's see the stuff. Shout out to Amazon, you can customize everything. You can have dynamic standards, default general purpose table. Or if we have tables that store data that's infrequently accessed with storage as a dominant table cost. So if you have something you need to store but you're not going to access it, you can put it on a slower disk and you get charged less. That's the cool thing about AWS. They give you a lot of resources. Two is probably the first thing I'm gonna do is use authentication data. A lot of people use the DynamoDB to keep your session data if you're programming. So once you keep your session data for a day and you log out, all that information is owed. So I would archive it into an infrequent table because theoretically, the only time I'm going to need it unless I'm doing research if we got hacked or if I'm trying to shout out to Amazon. Keep track of what you click on so I can figure out what I need to say. Do you ordered this? Maybe you want this, right? So I keep all that historical data, but I shouldn't be accessing it very often, right? So that's what you would use for that. Then capacity calculator, like we talked about, how much you would need. One and one tells you that'll be 59 cents a month. So it gives you a little idea how much you're going to use. If you're going to use on demand, paying simplified billing, paying for the actual reason, right? Provision, manage your costs by allocating reading and writing capacity in advance. 9 times out of 10, if you got a database and you got a company, you're gonna want to provision it because you're gonna need it for the whole year, and you save money because you're buying. Remember, we looked at those consistent reads and those writes. You could buy those up front. If you buy those up front for provision, they're gonna be cheaper. Then capacity maximum target utilization is when that gets to a certain level, it's going to spin up another partition, right? Because those are being hit, right? So that's part of when should it scale, your read scales and your write scales. Secondary indexes, if you need other stuff to be able to look at in your database. We only had 2 columns, but in a real company, you're going to have about 20 columns. So there's different stuff you want to be able to query on, right? Estimate reads and writes, 2,091 cents. 5 reads in the US East 2 region. Encryption, you want to encrypt your stuff at rest. Check it out. So that's setting up the table. We're just going to take the default settings. So that shows the default. Just going to create a table. So it's creating. So this is what savvy scientists or even engineering cannabis, they would create their tables depending on what their data they're doing or what they're trying to research or what they're trying to build it for, right? Or and kind of speed and kind of walk through what they would use their table for. But this is where they would store their data and use a program or just hand query it and get their information, right? So once again, that's the PBO customers order table. We checked it out. Let's click on it. Let's go check out updating the settings. We've seen the customer ID order, which was our partition key. Our order ID was sort. We talked about provision was capacity. Then we went through it. Those are the things we just selected, right? Here it shows us, if we were getting hit, how many reads and writes, how many scans, how many provisions, right? So if developers ask you something about the table or why is the table were slow, we can come in here and say, okay, we get too many reads or write, or you doing a full scan until you're doing a query until a scan with the ID or a partition number, right? So all that information is right here at your fingertips, which we already knew that. Let's see the index. Let me make this a little smaller so it'll fill up the screen a little bit. So there's the indexes. So we can build extra indexes, create an index, global secondary indexes. Like I said, if we wanted to do more. Once again, the monitoring, we can set alarms. If our database is over 70% or it's slow, we can set alarms to email us. CloudWatch 2, when insights, we can actually run queries to pull out what's our disk utilization, what's our hits per second in DAX. So you can set all that stuff here in monitoring. Once again, if you had a global table, you can actually create your table and duplicate it in another region. One, like we talked about, the speed. If you have customers on the East and West Coast, and a lot of times people know I do federal compliance. They want you to be able to fail over in under a minute to the other side of the country. You have to use global tables because if you're doing a backup and you had to install your backup, if you needed to return an operation in 5 minutes or less, you would use global tables, right? Because then that table's already over there. It's already duplicated. So the thing we have to do is point the code to the new region where the global tables secondary was at, right? So there's different ways you could use global tables. If you want to take a point in time backup, say you put something out and the release wasn't bad and you need to roll back to before the release, you would do point in time selection for that, right? So just walking through some of the features of DynamoDB, right? So let's explore the items. That tells you your query scan right there, if you scan or not. Create an item. So that's what we have. Remember, we had the customer ID and the order ID in that slide. So we'll go back to that. So let's see. So for the customer ID, we have 1. The order ID was 997. Right, so we just information in one table. Of course, in real life, we have a lot of we have a lot of data and a lot of issues, but that will be our order. So 2 is let's talk about the flexibility of NoSQL. So we could add a new attribute. We're gonna make that a string. So in our order, we'll say uh, we just call it a meal, right? And that we would call that meal ID 30. Happy Meal 30, right? So create on with that. So now the cool thing about that is, and the second record, we needed to add a new item to keep additional information. In the old days, if you were doing RDS, you had to add it to the table, maybe pre-fill it. With this, you could just keep adding items, at the hot, it's more flexible. That's part of the love of NoSQL, right? So let's edit this item. Let's say it's part of the other item. It was an additional order, so we're gonna make this 998. That's us updating that. So tick, yep, we know we recreating it. So that's it with the new item, right? So that's just us, kind of adding to it. But in real life, shout out to Savage Scientist. He will be populating this with C sharp on the fly. It would be billions of records coming in here, right? So, but this is how you would build it, test it to make sure you're doing what you want to do with with that type of table structure. Um, so just kind of labbing a little bit. Can you drop the link? I will check it out. Cool, cool. I finished something. I will start posting links about. Cool, thanks. So yeah, so checking that out. So that's it. Like I said, I added a couple rows. And the cool part about it is, even though it's no SQL, everybody use SQL like me. So standard SQL is select star from PBO customer orders. Right, you hit that. That'll bring all the records in there. Right, it was successful, so that brings every records in there. Right, so that's using SQL, which is cool. That's probably what I would do. That part QL is SQL for no SQL. That's because I'm a SQL guy. So that's standard SQL. So two, let's say I want to pull out the first record, I could do where order ID equals. When there's 2 records, I can say where order ID equals 997. Right, run that. Then I'll just pull out the one record. I think return completed successfully. Where's my record at? Why didn't it like that? 997 order ID. Let's see why didn't it come. Order ID 997. Clear. Whew. So yeah, once again, it's kind of for me because since I've been doing SQL forever, uh, I kind of like to be able to do that without learning a whole new language. 997. There it is. So it brought back record 1, order 997. Remember, it was 2. 997 just brought out 1 record. So once again, if engineering cannabis or my man had millions of rows in there, you could use SQL to kind of select what you needed, build what you needed, update what you needed, because those commands or SQL commands are been around forever, right? So for me, that's what I would use. So once again, just labbing a little bit. So that's it. Just build a table, put a couple rows in it, add it to the table. Mhm. So that's it. That shows you the rows. Show you like we talking about the indexes of the rows. Shows you what was in there, right? Then we just doing a proof of concept. Then we would move on to something bigger. But that's kind of it. Once again, I like the SQL feature of it because I've been doing SQL forever, and I can always feel like if I can use SQL, I can make it do what I make it do. So now that's it. Once again, just doing a little DynamoDB lab and just something small. Just try to start labbing a little more. So I'm just going to delete that, clean that up, so I don't get any extra AWS bills. Shout out to Citizen Lou. He got a big AWS bill one time, so I'm always cleaning up my resources. So um, let's see. I'm I'm gonna finish. Drop the link while I'm finishing up. Let's see. Move that over there. Once again, if you have any questions, just drop them in. I'm just kind of just going through a short live with that. And we're just gonna, security channel. So we got to talk about security on the back end. Uh, how would we lock it down, right? Like I said, that's a proof of concept, very light security. So from a security perspective, what would we do? Shout out to CAD Tech Lab every day. So yeah, just labbing a little bit. I said I was gonna start labbing, sticking my toe into the lab water. So just do a quick 5-minute exercise. But in the future, we're gonna be building whole environments, whole architectures, kind of walking through each one of them. Shout out to Gabe. We get together and do red team, blue team, and we build them. Talk about how you would attack them and what I would do to block them. Right. So I just dropped the link. So from a security perspective, preventative on Amazon database, encryption at rest, IAM rows. Access and management, identity and access management roles to authenticate access to DynamoDB. You can use IAM policies for base authentication, IAM policies to conditions for fine-grained access control. VPC is actually your networking, how you set it up. VPC endpoint policies to access DynamoDB. You can also do client-side encryption, right? So when we talk about security, what do we need to put with our DynamoDB to make sure we don't get hacked, right? Make sure we don't get all the credit cards stolen out of DynamoDB, right? So, yeah, I'll invite you up. So we're gonna just start doing we call those tabletops. And we said I'm about to show a few little architectures of it. And detective security, Amazon Cloud Trail. That's just basically logging. Um, Use Cloud Trails to monitor your managed key usages. Monitor DynamoDB's operations using Cloud Trails. We talked about Dynamo Streams to monitor the data plane. Monitor DynamoDB configurations with Amazon Config. Use compliance with Amazon Config rules, and you can tag DynamoDB tables to figure out what apps could get to which tables. Right. We're gonna show a couple little architecture designs on that. So out of the box, when you design Amazon DB, you can actually get to it from the internet and work on it. It's encrypted. You got to have a password. You can even say only certain IP addresses to get to it. But since I do federal compliant, the feds will be like, "This is unacceptable," right? But what we did when we spun up and we spun our table up, you could get through it from the internet, right? But once again, it was password protected. The account I actually was using actually has MFA on it, right? But still, you should not be able to get through it from the internet, right? Um, so the second part of that is we call it VPC endpoint. So your VPC, which is your networking for your company or your project, right? You put a VPC endpoint, and that VPC endpoint says only your company's VPC can get to your part of DynamoDB. So if you were coming from the outside, right, you could not get to it from the internet. Your internet will have to come through your VPC, and in that VPC, then you will have to hack your way to the Amazon database. But when you cut this out, right, that cuts a lot of your attack surface down, right? Because now it went from the whole internet to they got to come through your VPC coming from your subnet. That's you put a policy on in your VPC endpoint that could get to that DynamoDB. That's some stuff we're definitely going to do in the future. Some more advanced security features and how do you lock it down. We're going from how do you use it to deep security with like how do you use it and lock it down. And two is this is federal level security, right? When I was at DoD, this is what they would say you would have to set up. So once again, if you want to come up, I put the link. I dropped the link in there if anybody wants to come up. Let's see. Red team, blue team. Salute to the chat. Hope everybody doing good. Yep. Shout out to Kev. I'm covering programming because in the future I will be discussing security. That's cool. We could do joint. We could collab on that. We could collab on that, Savage. So yeah. So I'm actually doing the other way. I've done. I'm going. I program. I'm going from the security to the programming piece. Because that EC2 right there, that's where your program is going to be run, right? That could be Windows or Linux. And when you run your programming, right, that's going to be how do you actually connect to your DynamoDB. Right? So I'm still waiting for Professor Roller CISP material. Man, I bet we could kill that STIG material. Facts. That's on my list, man. That's on my list. CAD programming. So yeah. So from a security standpoint, you don't want people coming from the internet, even if you got a password protected, even if it's MFA, you don't want people from the internet having access to your from your part of your DynamoDB table, right? So that's attack surface. We cut it from the whole internet down to just your VPC. Now, don't get me wrong; they can actually. That was one of the videos. Those SSH Linux attacks. This could be a SSH server I'm using for my DBAs and programs to work on. They got hacked from the internet. Then from there, right, they could get to my DynamoDB. But now, right, instead of just coming from the internet, they would have to actually attack my SSH server to be able to hack it, right? So there's extra security on top of that, right? So it's just not one thing, but then the other part, like we talked about, we got two different apps up there. We're talking about microsegmentation, and the app one is supposed to write to table one. App two should only write to table two. Then with users and roles, I can tell what apps can write to what DynamoDB table. See, this app two try to go to table one. It was like, you're not secure, right? This could be orders, and this could be credit card orders, right? The same program but different apps, right? Call them microservices. So we splitting out those business domains and their own programs, their own EC2 and their kind of own environments, right? So we can lock them down even more. Right. So even if you hacked into app two and you try to get to table one, even though you got in there, you without the proper credentials, you couldn't get over. And the cool thing is if you got your monitoring right, we know this should never happen. So if this came up, this should be setting off red alarms to the security team, the operation team. What's going on? Somebody's trying to connect to something. Number one, they should know it's there. Number two, they tried, right? So from a logging and monitoring standpoint, the SOC, Security Operations Center, people should be getting emails and red lights should start flashing, right? So that's, when you get to your next level, security, logging and monitoring. Number one, it didn't happen, but your program should never try that. So obviously a developer did something wrong, or a nation state or an adversary is taking over the credentials of your app 2 program, right? So if this happens, once again, red lights need to be moving, flashing lights. Security teams should be getting all kind of emails to figure out what's going on, right? And two is this is a different level of security. A lot of people don't have monitoring at that level, though. I mean, I sound cool, but a lot of people don't have that type of monitoring. But if you're at a mature level, CMC level 5, 3, 4, you should have this type of logging and getting those type of alerts inside your operating system. And shout out to Savage Scientists. This is stuff we need to be labbing and setting up, right? From a programming standpoint and an architecture and environment standpoint, putting those two together, right? So, and once again, same thing too is that was from an EC2. This is actually from a Lambda function, which is AWS's programming infrastructure and architecture. That Lambda function, once again, on that subnet, should be the only one going to that DynamoDB, and that function B should be the only one to subnet. So once again, if that subnet 2 is trying to get to that DynamoDB, right, we should be blocking that with policies and procedures, and these are called endpoint policies. With those, once again, if that happens, we should be red alert alarms and what's happening. And that's what we're going to lab in the future. What does that look like from an engineering standpoint? Right, when we talk about cloud engineering and cloud security engineering, the DevSecOps is that part, right? When you try to connect with that red light from a security standpoint, are you logging that? Are you monitoring that? And are you blocking that, right? Number one, we should be blocking it. It shouldn't happen. Number two, are you logging that? Number three is when that happened, once again, you should shut down actually that EC2, block it, log in and set it up for forensics. Shout out to Gabe or Alpha Cyber, Kenny Conjo. Those are red team guys that do forensics in this area. So if that happens, I need to automatically shut down that EC2, quarantine it, make a copy of that, flush out the memory for your memory, your open files, what's in the network. It'll show source and destination. I should flush all that out to the disk because in memory it's going to go away over time. So I need to flush that out and get that ready for the forensic people to come and look at. And once again, we'll talk about that. That's the advanced DevSecOps part of DevSecOps, right? And all that should be automated. This happens, you should automatically have something to we're gonna quarantine it, make a copy of it, flush everything out, do a basic forensics, then have our forensic experts come in, fly in, and do that. Most people don't have forensics talent on their local team to do that because those guys are super expensive. So once again, going back to we having logging, and the big deal is this: we don't want DynamoDB or S3 available on the internet. By default, the internet can get to it, which they got once again encryption, password, MFA. We're doing federal level security. Only our subnets, right, should be able to talk to our part of the virtual DynamoDB and S3, right? So if you're going to attack us, you got to first hack into our VPC to be able to get to our resources, right? So once again, we're going to start showing that in lab and more. This is my first lab, and I'm going to grow into and build up so I could be like Kev Tech one day, get a lot of subscribers. Now, shout out to Kev Tech. But no, that's it. So that's it. I'll hang about a little bit, drop a little. I'll drop the link. I'll drop it again if anybody wants to come up. That's it. Once again, just tapping on DynamoDB. Once again, I think a lot of people take the database for granted. We do a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of people don't even think about the database, even though it has all the good stuff in the database, right? Credit cards, secrets, most of that stuff is stored in databases, right? And we don't give database enough respect on this thing. Put respect on the database name. So once again, that's it. So I dropped the link. Let's see what my man's saying. I hate joining Twitter because it can't be time. I finally made an account and joined Twitter. Yeah, I haven't even did that. You ahead of me, Kev Tech. I'm old, man. I can't be letting people drag me on Twitter. I got an account. I think I logged on once. I ain't mentally ready yet for Twitter. I ain't mentally ready yet for Twitter, man. I gotta grow up to Twitter. I don't want none of that Twitter, but I can't Twitter stop sign. I can't wait to start cyber security talk. Yeah, man. I can't. Why are you waiting? I can't wait. You should start. It's all good. The more the merrier, man. I have to be Professor Blackops when I grow up. Shout out to Kev Tech. I'm old and got bad knees. Kev Tech, you don't want to be me, man. I'll be 55 this year, man. So 55, trying to get my AWS skills up. It's all good. But go check out everybody. Most of my subscribers came from Kev Tech and Keep It Techie. So if one of y'all not subscribed to Kev Tech, go check out Kev Tech. support my man, Savage Scientist. We both trying to grow up to be Kev Tech. So check out my man, Savage Scientist. Shout out to Engineering Cannabis. We need where his channel at, man. Come on, Engineering. You slow, man. I need you to get your channel rolling, man. You the only AI and ML guy I know. Shout out to him. So, but that's all I got, man. I'm great. Get back on this grind. I got a few things alive. I need to stop freelancing. I got an Indian client. I'm doing some IRS Pub 170, which is federal compliance for a commercial company. So I got to do some policies and procedure and send him a bill. Shout out to me. Shout out Citizen Lou. We're always talking about digital nomad, getting remote work, getting extra remote work. It's about to be inflation. Professor BlackOps Chunky, man, I gotta make sure I can eat during this recession. So I gotta. The two is I like doing small customers. I wouldn't say I'm practicing on them, but I'm practicing on them, right? So, and I build them according to my practice, right? So we're practicing it. That's how you get better. So that's one thing I want to do is get some side work and get some junior people or people learning. Shout out to Kev Tech. He always sends a few people to me from a cybersecurity perspective. And I always say, if Kev Tech send you, you're going to the front of the line. So, so two is I want to be able to get work and give young people work so they can work on their resume and get real world experience. I always talk about that. So we should be setting up incubators with projects, but also getting stuff from Upworks and sharing it with people so everybody can get experience and everybody can get paid and everybody can get a little better in this sector. So that's what I'm working on for 2022. Hopefully, 2023, I'll have a few more clients and I can share them with people trying to get some security from a compliance standpoint and an AWS architecture standpoint and do some real world work. And like you said, make real world money. That's what I'm about, real world money. So, but shut up. But that's kind of what I'm working for. Shout out to Kev Tech. I'm gonna be working on my class and my free class in 2023. So I'm trying to keep it techie. Nah, that's my bad. Keep it techie. Get my get my free course together. Building those genuine connect. Oh yeah, shout out to Kev Tech. He's the one actually really getting me to get my LinkedIn a little better. I was a little sleep on LinkedIn, and Kev Tech forced me to get better because he be atting me every other day. Shout out to Kev Tech. He be helping me out. He be driving a lot of subscribers my way. He be atting me. I'm like, oh, who's atting me? It be Kev Tech. So shout out to Kev Tech. He be definitely sharing his LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm not scared of getting doxxed, but shout out to Kev Tech. He's always at me on LinkedIn and sending people my way and just helping my LinkedIn grow off of his. So it's definitely a valuable resource. Since I got my AWS certs, now I went from getting hardly any interviews to my box is hot. It's like every time I go into my email, especially from Indeed and LinkedIn, they be like, "We possibly have a match." I'm like, "Block, your money's too low." Block. No, I'm just playing. Your money's too low. Block. Nah, but shout out to them. Shout out to brother Michael. Salute y'all. I'm still learning. This is a help a lot. That's cool, brother Michael. Come on in. It's a lot of people here to help, man. I always tell people, depending on where you're at on your journey, I always have start with Kev Tech, man. I think help desk is really a place to start. Even I've never worked on what they would call a help desk, but as a junior programmer, all the help desk tickets they got that went to the database people or the program because the program wouldn't work, they gave to the junior programmer. So we were the help desk. We just didn't get the ticket because they would go to them and say, the database acting funny, or I'm trying to do this, or this screen look funny. They would send it to the junior programmers, and that was me. So I always tell people that's a good place to start. I always tell people I start out as a programmer, and I think that's the place to start. But junior programmers is really the help desk because you're fixing the stuff people reporting to the help desk, right? So you are the help desk. They just don't call you help desk. And like Kev Tech said, your soft skills get a lot. Your soft skills, you build on your soft skills, right? Two, as I always tell, and I'm always hard on young guys, is you got to control your emotions. It could not be your fault. And a lot of end users are dumb, but you can't be yelling at the CFO, man. You got to just take a deep breath and help them, man. Then your name gets out. That controls you. That teaches you how to deal with the customer. I'm old now. My customers are the CIOs, CFOs, and the Chief Information Security Officer. Same thing, just a different title to the customers I work with, right? And that trained me because I can't go out the handle, even if it's my fault. I can't go left, right? And these are the people, right? When I need a job, they give me references, and it's cool when you can say the CIO of X is going to give you a reference, right? Too, because you get to those levels to deal with those type of people, but you have to start somewhere. So shout out to KevTech and the help desk. I know he's doing bigger and better things than that, but I think that's yes, I think that's a good place, and I think a lot of people kind of talk down on the help desk sometimes. So I just want to definitely give a shout out to that. Yep, help desk. Uh, I get those spam calls. Block. Yeah, I'm starting to lead this now, man. I made a mistake. I said $45 wasn't no money. I was like, oh my god, that's 90,000. I'm elitist now. I can't be elitist. Shout out to the elitists. They're only good at doing their work. We should be thankful that they break stuff and give facts. So that's it, though. I want everybody to have a great weekend. Monday's here. Oh man, I got too much going on. I'm studying for my next AWS cert, which is the SysOp. Um, they got me doing some Power BI at work, which it wasn't bad. I mean, I could figure it out. Like we were talking about, kind of what I was doing right there. So I was uh, doing some emailing out of Power BI at work, which was cool. So they loved it. So it was all good. Let's see. Let's start Kumbaya here for the text base. I'll be over here. Shout out. They only get it doing that work. We should fight Thango. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, facts. But usually tier one takes care of those people. So with the five, I tell them five there's everything. Better be cool to side this. No, that's it. Once again, I will share everybody have a great weekend. I'm sure you see me, and I'm trying to be here every Sunday at 3, and that was my first lab, and they're gonna get bigger and better. So I gotta figure out what I'm doing next week. So once again, usually on the sysops too, we were doing a little setting up databases. So a lot of times what I'm getting ready to be tested on is what I do what I do my video on. So like I said, and the sysops is the only AWS software you actually have to get on the GUI, and actually you have to build what they tell you to build on the fly. I think you get 3 labs, you got 20 minutes to build what they tell you to build. So once again, shout out lab every day, and I am want to be super comfortable in the GUI so I can build anything. Then the next part of that is cloud formation, when they say, well, spin up 200 EC2s. You don't want to do that through the GUI, right? You want to spin that up programmatically with their tools, right? But you got to be able to do it on the GUI before you can do them on a template. So I've been, once again, living every day. Shout out to Adrian. She's getting her a channel. Oh, facts. I was Batman to the top architect at the state, and I do everything for setting up meetings to I've done everything. I was kind of like his right hand man. So for me though, and people used to always like, why would you do that? Like, dude, I'm at a certain age. My pay is the same. So to be honest, I don't care. I just don't care. So he'd be like, can you set up? Yep, I can set up the meeting. My pay is the same. If you want to pay me X to do that, whatever. I'm just at a point in my life, man. I'm just kind of laid back. And like I said, we were cool, and he helped me make real money. He showed me what real money was. So I'd be like, I need you. Okay. And two is I'm one of the few people he trusts, so it's weird. So I'm like Kev Tech. I do everything from setting up meetings to talking about AWS government data center, and can we get it to work for a certain vendor? So I go from setting a meeting up to we need federal compliance. Should we be in an AWS government data center or the commercial data center? It's like Kev Tech says too. It makes you a well-rounded person, right? As you go up, because you start taking tickets for everything. And I always tell people, as you grow, your skill stack. I was a programmer, web admin, app admin, DBA, security compliance. I was a supervisor over 7 programmers for a Fortune 500 insurance company. So I've done everything kind of in this business. So I'm just kind of moving back to AWS cloud engineering. I miss building stuff. Like I said, I did a ton of security compliance for a decade. So I just want to do that and actually build the infrastructure that we're gonna comply with. So cheers, my techie friends. I come out the mud. Check it out. Let's see. I was an IT manager. My staff was all work study students. They were. Oh yeah, my first team was good. My second team gave me an ulcer. So that's why I never was the manager after that again. That probably was a mistake in my life. My second team sucked. They gave me an ulcer because I ended up doing most of the work. I had them smashing the hard drive. Oh my god, we were building those fundamentals. You were using the cloud and those things are starting. Oh yeah, the cool thing is, and I did that on the video is there was only a couple things I did in AWS that was totally new. Everything else I set up on prem. It just didn't scale to 1,000 EC2s, right? But I've done a load balancer, I've done a web server, I've done an app server, I hooked it to an Oracle database. It's just that stuff we had to do manually. Now a lot of stuff is automated. So from a fundamentals kev tech, I've done all this. It's just I got to figure out how AWS wants me to do it and their best practices how they want you to do it for a customer. So those are the things I'm putting together and just getting comfortable with. And like I said, I try to lab every day. Similar to that, I might do a DynamoDB, hook it to a EC2, put it in a VPC like we talked about, make it private to only that VPC can talk to it. Go through the security of what that would look like for a federal client. And those are things I'm getting comfortable with. Of course, we're going to start labbing that so you can see it in real life. And shout out to Savage Scientist. We can actually put his program on one of my EC2s for Windows and connect it to an S3 bucket and do some forms and reports and save the forms to a file system or something. So, but that's it. That's all I got. Everybody have a nice weekend. I'm about to take a quick break. Then I'm about to get back at it. Oh yeah, it's never too late. Because the cool thing is, even if you get into help desk, you got a legal background, so compliance is out there for you. There's a ton of things out there for you. PMPs out there for you if you want it, and a lot of those you don't have to be super technical. I'm gonna interview my client. I appreciate that, brother Michael. Two is a lot of times, and Black Heights talk about that. There's a lot of technical jobs that aren't technical. PMP, project owner, product manager, especially with Agile. There's a whole different. Shout out to Tam. She's in the house. No, shout out to Tam. You just missed my lab. I created a DynamoDB and a couple of tables for NoSQL. Nah, but shout out to Tam. So she's got me on my automation kick, working on my cloud formation for AWS. Even though I need to go to Ansible on something that's not super AWS specific. I think Tam's a little more cloud agnostic. She can go to any cloud. I'm just in the AWS hood. I haven't got agnostic yet. Shout out to Tam. Definitely go check out on Women in Linux. I always send out. I've been sending. She don't even. I've sent a ton of people her way. I appreciate her. Shout out to Tam. That's gonna be my barbecue for the day. I keep saying I might have to start my diet tomorrow. Shout out to Tam. That's gonna get my barbecue. But just what is cloud? Cloud at a high level, building cloud from the ground up, right? She's starting from bare metal. I want to start just building some infrastructure, getting comfortable with cloud formation, and making that federally compliant, right? Putting those pieces together. Because we know PwC's hiring, Ernst & Young's hiring, AWS is hiring, and a lot of companies is moving. Federal clients are moving to the cloud. That's just a different ball game when you move there. So let's see. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. I've been saying I'm gonna leave for an hour. I dropped the link. So yeah, Tam's got Women in Linux. Tam, drop your channel. Let's see. Tam got a wrench. Yeah, Tam got a wrench. Drop your channel, Tam. Yeah, Tam's always talking about business and money, stocks and money, tech and money. She has two shows on Saturday. I be barely getting one show. Shout out to D. I know D be putting in work with him. So Oh, Cyber Scientists already did it, but yeah, so definitely go check that out. So yeah, so that's what get doing bigger labs, more complicated labs. Like I said, from an AWS, get cloud formation in there, get there's chef and puppet part when you need to get to detailed configurations, right? What that looks like in DevSecOps, right? When you actually deploy code and make sure it's secure, and then AWS deploy the code around the globe in different regions, right? So you can do all that with cloud formation and what that looks like at senior level. And we talked about getting them back. Once again, Monday's almost here, so I'm just out here trying to get it and on my grind. Once again, like I said, trying to get my AWS certs. Then I'm gonna get that CISP and just kind of labbing every day. Then hook up with one of Town's big clients that be on their time I paying, 400,000, 300,000. I thought I was making money till I met Tam in Black Heights, man. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to upgrade a little bit. I ain't got much time left. I'll be 55 this year. My son was joking at me. I thought I was 54. I'm losing track of time. My son said, "Nah, you old, daddy. You be 55 this year." I told him I was gonna get a new son. I didn't like him, but now I'm gonna be 55 this year. So, like Tam said, I gotta get my 401k up. I got some work coming up. They need some do some stigs. They paying 95. I try to push them 130, but they underbid it. Factual. I always got people wanting a bit. Shout out to the stigs. So definitely gonna do that. That's why you should go to see Tam because she's, she 95 times two, that's 200. 130 is 260, Tam's always her favorite term. We need accredited investors. See, I usually don't say that enough. So that's 200,000 or more. That's usually a little above me, but shout out to the accredited investors. So we gotta, like we said, Tam said we need all the people at 200,000. That'll relieve a lot of problems for us. So I'm shutting it down. You late. Take that easy. Yeah, good luck on that, man. I tell everybody you got to be in one of the clouds, man. Azure is definitely a great cloud to be in. Even though I'm AWS, they're Microsoft money, and I do a lot of state work, and either they're in Azure or AWS. A lot of times they're in both because a lot of governments at least using O365. Even if they're doing their custom stuff in AWS, their O365 is in AWS from an office standpoint, and Azure is just dominating in that realm. So that's definitely good. So everybody check my man out. He's Tech Xavier. He's just getting started in the game, man. I remember when I had 30 subscribers. So I feel like, so everybody go check my man out. He's doing good stuff. He's studying for 6 hours online. He's showing us all of his stuff. So just go check him out. He putting in great work, man. I remember when I was first starting. Shout out to Kev Tech and them. They helped me, so I try to help my man share his stuff out there. So let me hold tight. I'm gonna give you a rinse, Xavier. Drop your channel in there, man. I'm gonna let you drop your channel in, and before I go get this barbecue, Tam just bless me with just messing my diet all up, man. I'm blaming Tam, just messing my diet all up. Xavier, drop your channel in there, man. I think I just modded you up. But like I said, check out Women in Linux. Everybody knows Kev Tech. I don't even want to introduce Kev Tech, man. Like I said, I got most of my subscribers from Kev Tech, man. Shout out my man, Cyber Scientist. He's definitely one of the few programmers checking that out and doing that. So bless my man, brother Michael, for 10. Like I said, put those together at 60. Do a little something. Let me see, my man drop his channel in there. So go check my man, Tech Xavier. He knows it's not spelled right. Don't be telling me he can't spell Tech. He trying to be different. He trying to be a little different. So check my man out. I remember when I was down there. I think I'm at 1,700. So I'm slowly building. So too is it's just a grind, and I really enjoy it because I came here to help people. So yep. And once again, everybody have a nice weekend. And once again, I think I'm about to, I know, just relax a little bit. Then I'll be back live today, getting ready for my next AWS search. I'm trying to get one more associate, then start studying for the professional ones. And I heard those were super hard. So my goal is probably October sit for one of the special. Um, Sit for one of the AWS professional ones. The professional architect is the one I'm going to sit for. So, um, I said I'm up for the grind, and I think I see a lot of people with the associate. I'm just trying to take a step up and get that professional one. Check the big box, then try to get the CISP to go with that. Then just lab every day, like Tim said, and just build those skills so you can work on those real projects and get that 95 an hour, get that 130 an hour. Get that accreditive investor money, right? So, uh oh. Weeks is grocery. Shout out to Adrian. She ain't living like Tam. Nobody's living like Tam though. But no, shout out with her. I'm always bugging her and D. I'm usually on their channel on the weekend, coming up on the stream. I haven't been out in a minute because I've been getting these other AWS certs. They've been tearing me up. I appreciate you, Texas. You can check my man out. He's putting out good stuff. I remember when I first got here and I didn't know nobody. So I know how it feels, man. Shout out to Keep It Tech, who introduced me to Kev Tech, that introduced me to Black Heist, to introduce me to Tam, to introduce me. Now I'm kind of known. I'm a little celebrity on YouTube. I'm a baby celebrity. So I go around and a few people know me. So like I said, I can't complain. I want a 2-week basis. I'm gonna be on the third. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start. I got one little thing. I bought this Airbnb before the pandemic, and it's burning my pockets up. So I'm actually about to get that online and get some people in there and get out of my pockets because I've been covering the mortgage by myself. That's why you need to be in tech in case you get hung up. You can afford to pay for your Airbnb until your customers get paid for it. So shout out to that. So. But it's all good. That's part of the game, man. If everything was super smooth, that's part of life. But once again, I'm out. I appreciate the donations. Like I said, I'm growing. I need to be eating better. I need to take that money and go get a salad, but I am not. Everybody else have a good weekend. I'm out. I'm sure I'm gonna see you on these YouTube streets, and be careful because I just video the hacker sent the old lady to Uber to take her to the bank so they could steal her money. So be careful out on the cybersecurity streets. The hackers are vicious. Everybody have a nice weekend.